our rings are made out of a soft elastomer, spongy, soft. Um, they have, the technology ring has two sensors in it. It has a pressure sensor here, and there's a strain gauge here. And I happen to have a dildo on my desk. Don't you? Doesn't everyone? It goes on differently. The testicles get dropped in. It opens and closes with a hook, which is a safety feature because it's easy on, easy off, with the hook. And as the penis expands in girth, in width, pressure sensor gets pushed on, strain gauge or the hook gets pulled on, and then the computer has these two data points, and the data points then get translated into a firmness scale of 1 to 10.
Welcome back to the MedTech 101 podcast, and today it's an episode that I've been waiting for a while to happen. We tried to do this last week, but it didn't work out, which is the first time it has happened on the podcast. But I'm happy that Dr. Elliot Justin is here, who is basically working to address issues around men's health. So yeah, I'm kind of excited about this today, Doc. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
To get started, with your background, it's quite interesting because, leading up to FirmTech, before that, you were at Harvard studying Slavic languages. What could you tell us about that?
I wanted to be a spy. It was a long time ago. It was the height of the Cold War, and my basic Islamic language and literature. Well, because I like Russian literature, but also because I wanted to become fluent in Russian. I did apply at the CIA. I didn't like the people though, so I chose to become a doctor instead.
Oh wow! Well, I see. That's quite exciting. Not many people try to apply for the CIA and study languages and then end up working in MedTech. So it's quite interesting. And then as a doctor, what drove you to FirmTech?
Well, frankly, Rodney, I've always had an interest in sex. Maybe even for a man, an unusual interest in sex. So my first day at medical school, Boston University, I went to the medical library, and there was something then called the Index Medicus. That was a compendium of all the medical research that had been done over the last year or years in alphabetical order. I went to AVI because I wanted to read about aphrodisiacs. There wasn't exactly a line of medical students behind me clawing for the same volume. As a matter of fact, there was no one interested in aphrodisiacs in medical school. Yes. So I had to experiment with a few of the things that were recommended as having potential. And the same things that are frankly being recommended today in supplements: L-arginine, L-citrulline, yohimbe, horny goatweed, maca root, afangawanda, various herbal things from around the world, different colleges, and none of them worked. So many years went by, and in the early 2000s, I started the second oldest telemedicine company, telephone company in the United States. And that got me interested in remote patient management technologies. What can information people get at home, but ideally without having to see a doctor, and ideally without having to deal with the fact that doctors are often motivated by secondary gain, meaning money. A urology professor at the University of Utah about 4 years ago contacted me and said he wanted to count the number of nocturnal erections that a man has. And I said, what the heck for? Why should we care about nocturnal erections in men? And he said, well, because they're a leading indicator of a man's cardiovascular health. And I said, well, that's really interesting because in medicine, there are very few things that are leading indicators. In medicine, we treat associations. A leading indicator is something that's predictive. But we treat associations like, hey, high blood pressure associated with heart attack. Okay, my blood pressure goes from, systolic, say 140 to 160. It's not telling me that I'm going to have a heart attack. It's not telling me when I'm going to have a heart attack. It's just it's a potential warning sign to pay attention to. On the other hand, if a man's nocturnal erections goes down by 50%, assuming that decline is not due to medication, that man has a 50% chance of having a heart attack in the next 2 or 3 years. Well, that's motivating. And we live in this era of healthcare wearables, smart watches, smart rings, Oura, Whoop, Apple, Garmin, but superhuman. There's so many right now all around the world. But what data are men most interested in? I'm interested in the most vital, the vital signs of their most vital organ. And so I thought this could be, to tell men about the nocturnal erections could be profoundly valuable. This doctor also told me that's a truism among urologists, that the penis is the canary in the coal mine of cardiovascular disease. Well, so it would be really fantastic if men, by monitoring their nocturnal erections, could get early warning signs of cardiovascular disease, heart attack, or strokes. But this doctor's idea was narrow in the sense that he just wanted to count nocturnal erections and measure their duration and firmness. My thought was, why stop at the ones we have at night? Let's measure all of them. What do men care more about? The ones they have when they're having sex, trying to have sex, the ones that happen while they're sleeping. So uh, that's the background story. That's how I got involved. That's how I started FirmTech, and that's how I invented the tech ring. Actually, this is the most fun I've ever had. I've started 7 companies, um, and I've never had as much fun as this one. And why is that? Because I get to talk about sex all the time.
Nice, Doc. I'm happy you say that. I'm happy you say that. And I think we're gonna go down into the nitty gritties of how it works and why is it so important that you're driven to do this. But as you mentioned, like you actually kind of guessed like my next question in terms of um, like why FemTech. And you said you started 7 companies before, and now this one is your best one because you get to talk about things that we I think all like everyone thinks of. Everyone came into this world that way, and you providing that solution for men. And you said it's also the sort of like the cornerstone of like cardiovascular fitness or cardiovascular health in men. So I mean there's that revelation study that you're telling me about. I mean like a couple of weeks ago when we spoke. Would you mind like just shedding some light on that as well?
Sure. Well, we've documented 85,000 erections. No one else has a database of men's sexual health of this scale. Um, the, the the recommendations for treating erectile dysfunction, and in a moment I want to explain why I hate the word dysfunction. But the recommendations are based upon studies that had a couple hundred men in them in the 1990s. So this database is enormous, and it has revealed that what doctors have been treating as the leading cause of erectile dysfunction is not. It's the second leading cause. But they've missed the leading cause, and that's really really interesting. So this and that's a common problem in medicine. But the standards in medicine set by academic doctors. The academic urologists in the clinical practices are seeing men who can't get it up or struggle to get it up. Well, that's only about 10 to 12% of men. Most men get it up and then they lose it, and their problems is very different. So they actually, under this term erectile dysfunction, they really group together 2 groups that don't belong together. The men who can't get it up or struggle to get it up, that's dysfunction. And these are men who have angina, they have a heart attack, they've had strokes, they have poor high, they're obese, they have poorly controlled hypertension and diabetes. They have significant disease. And a man who struggles to get up and can't get up, that man should see a cardiologist and a urologist and figure out what's causing it, because that man has a significant risk for a heart attack or a stroke or death. So, but that's the majority of most men's problems. Most men get it up and they lose it. So here's what the data shows. The incidence of erectile dysfunction goes up 10% per decade after age 40, 45. I'm 72 by my age, 70%. You look like you're about 15 years old, Rodney, maybe 20 years old. So uh, it's probably not a factor in your life, but by age 30, 25 to 28% of men are reporting erectile dysfunction. But is it really erectile dysfunction? Because again, let me explain the data first. So the incidence goes up 10% per decade after age 45. The expectation of doctors, myself included, was that as more men get older, their diabetes, hypertension, obesity, atherosclerosis, all these factors will lead to decreased nocturnal erection number, decreased nocturnal firmness, and decrease of sex erection firmness. And if you exclude the men who are the sickest, the men who struggle to get up, that, the other men, what's going on with the other men? They're getting blood in. So the problem is not because their heart's not pumping effectively, but because their arteries are narrow and not getting blood to their penis. The problem is that blood is leaving their penis, and they'd like to keep it there. Now, it could be leaving the penis for a lot of different reasons. It could be loss of confidence. It could be that their baby's crying next room. They're worried about paying their mortgage. They and their wife, they had just had a fight with a partner earlier in the day. It could be medications. We doctors prescribe antihypertensives and antidepressants that have significant negative impact on people on men's sexual performance. Could be alcohol. Could be recreational drugs. If a man gets it up, whatever the reason that's going to lead to it coming down faster than he would like to come down, it's coming down because it's leaving through his veins. And the answer, the majority of men, is a cock ring. I don't like calling it a cock ring. I'd like to call it an erection ring. So why is that? Because let's go back to the word dysfunction. Yeah, if man can't get up, it's dysfunctional. But for the majority of men, it's not dysfunction. It's just a problem. It's a problem to figure out. Uh, and and while you're figuring it out, a ring will help you regardless of what the cause is. So when we call something a cock ring, kind of put it in the realm of a sex toy. But an erection ring helps to sustain erection. It's actually I don't even like to call it aid. It's an enhancer for all men, even men as young as you, Rodney, and you can prove it to yourself tonight. How can you prove it? Well, first I'll talk about first. So Rodney, how old are you? You're in your 20s, right?
Yeah, I'm 27 now. I turned 27 in January.
Yeah, you're getting old. Things are really starting to
Yeah.
deteriorate for you. I'll give you an example.
Yeah.
Um, when you were when you were 12 or 13 years old, and you held a girl's hand or a girl pecked you on your cheek, you get a hard on for like an hour, right?
Of
Does that still
course, of
happen?
course. No, not really.
No, it doesn't happen anymore. It might happen a little bit, but it doesn't happen the way it did 10
Yeah,
years ago, right?
of
Because
course, yeah.
because even at your young age, things are already starting to deteriorate, and no one pays attention to this. But what's going on? So all a man has to do, any man your age, man my age, to demonstrate the value of an erection ring is go to wherever you go when you're alone, and you're masturbating. Go to Pornhub, XNXX, get rock hard, and then see how long it takes for your erection to go down. And it'll be 25 to 35 seconds. Your age, probably 35 seconds. My age, 25 seconds. Then get rock hard again and put a ring on. Ours, of course, but any ring will do. Put an erection ring on, and you can stay hard for over 2 minutes, maybe 3 minutes. And what is that telling every man, whether he has ED or doesn't have ED, whether identifies having ED, doesn't identify having ED? It's telling you, gee, if I want to last longer, if I want to be harder, put a ring on. And it's so obvious in retrospect. If you told me 4 years ago, Rodney, that I'd be on a MedTech show, I'd be talking about erection rings, I would have said two things. No fucking way, excuse me. And also, I, like most men, I would have said, oh, I don't need that. Why do I care about that? And now I understand um, their value. At my age, they're valuable for two reasons. Your age, one reason. My age, they're valuable because the data is telling me about not just my sexual health, which I want to maintain, obviously, but it's also telling me about my cardiovascular health, and it's telling me about the impact of medication upon my sexual cardiovascular health, and that's really valuable. That's why the urologists call it penis, the canary in the coal mine of cardiovascular disease. As I said before, at your age or my age, it's also um, an effective tool for confidence, lasting longer, having more pleasure, and but it hasn't. Been one of our missions at FirmTech is to mainstream erection rings for those two reasons. One, for older men to get older, meaning over the age of 40, 45, to get critical data about their cardiovascular and sexual health. And two, every man can enhance their performance and their pleasure, and the partners as well too, with a ring.
True. No, definitely. I agree with you, Doc. And the question that I have is, how does the ring actually work? Because is there like any? Would you be able to describe the sort of like
Sure.
the technology behind the ring, just for people
Oh,
listening, as to
oh,
like how exactly?
people watching or just listening?
Or there'll be both people listening and watching.
Sure.
So for those people who are listening on Spotify or wherever they're
Sure.
listening to, like they can head over to the YouTube video. There'll be more
Sure.
graphics if you have any designs for them to
We do.
see.
Yeah. So basically, one of the problems with most sex toy cock rings that they're made out of hard silicone. They pinch, they're uncomfortable, and they cut off the circulation. In order to count the number of nocturnal erections overnight, we have to come up with something that could be worn for about 20, 30 minutes comfortably. So our rings are made out of a soft elastomer, spongy, soft. Um, they have the technology ring has two sensors in it. It has a pressure sensor here, and there's a strain gauge here. And I happen to have a dildo on my desk. The Don't you? Yeah, doesn't everyone? It goes on differently. The
Yeah.
testicles get dropped in. It opens and closes with a hook, which is a safety feature because it's easy. It's easy on, easy off. With the hook. And as the penis expands in girth in width, pressure sensor gets pushed on, the strain gauge or the hook gets pulled on, and then the computer has these two data points, and the data points then get translated into a firmness scale of 1 to 10. So
Oh,
a man needs to be um, really like a 4.5 to penetrate. Man has 6.5 to 7 in order to have satisfactory, not just sex with a partner, but sex
of
with
course.
yourself. Although most men most men are 9 to 10. That was an interesting finding as well too, because there's the doctors felt that as men get older there would be deterioration in firmness about nocturnal and sex erections, and just starts to taper off. This is about my age, around late 60s, early 70s. We see a slight tapering off in most men, but it's not enough to. I mean, I'll just talk about myself. I can't tell the difference between a 10 erection and a 9 erection. They're both the same. But the machine is telling me something. In general, when I'm having sex, my erections are 10. Why do I go to an 8 or a 9 sometimes? I have to confess, it's alcohol. The I if I have more than say 8, 12 ounces of wine, or have more than 4 ounces of, God, I'm using these old-fashioned American measuring terms. More than four ounces of alcohol, it has an impact, and I can see the impact. And actually, the having data has changed my habits. I drink less, um, for because the reasons are so obvious. The impact is so
Nice,
obvious.
nice, and no, that's really interesting actually. And this is one of the sets of the rings you have. You got another one as well. So the one which is this one that helps with the performance, or the other
All
one?
the rings help performance, but only the tech ring has data. The performance ring, the maximum performance ring, were designed for other purposes. The performance ring was designed for larger men, or men who think they're larger, and of which there are quite a few. So, so the the tech ring and the max PR, if a man is more than I was about to say 6 inches, so 6 times 2.2, that's 13, a little about 13 centimeters in girth. We're talking, that's big. If a man's
Yeah,
the rings are uncomfortable. So that
yeah.
and the reality is that the bell curve, if you will, for the size of penises, it's actually really narrow. Now, yes, there are certain ethnic groups in Africa, not all, there are certain groups that are larger, and then the Japanese and the Japanese and the Koreans and some of the South Chinese, they tend to be smaller. But overall, for all men, all races, because I had to mention, because people ask me about this all the time. For all men, all races, it's a pretty narrow curve. So the tech ring is really a one size fits all. 95% of men. The Max Performance ring was designed for two purposes. One was um, I wanted to have a less expensive product that would enhance people's performance. Now we have compared the Max Performance ring to Dalafil, Cialis, 10 milligrams. Two studies. One we did internally, then one was done independently, and both those studies show that the ring is as effective for most men as 10 milligrams of pill. Well, that's really interesting because the ring then becomes a non-pharmacological alternative. Maybe even for many people, probably a first-line alternative to first line choice over a PD5 medication, with Viagra and Cialis, the most common with PD5 medications. But with the tech rig, with the data, you can actually figure out what's the right dose. So think about high blood pressure again. I mentioned that earlier. If I went to a doctor right now, or you for that matter, and said, "Gee, I'll pick up myself because I'm white." I went to a doctor right now and said, "I think I have high blood pressure. When I work out, my face gets really flushed, and my pulse is pounding." And the doctor said, "Oh, that's really interesting, Elliot. Take this pill and come back in 3 months." I would think, what is this, like 1900? You got a blood pressure cuff here? You're gonna get an electrocardiogram. You can check out my lipoproteins. But that's how urologists right now are treating erectile dysfunction. It's just, hey Rodney, hey Elliot, take a pill, come back in 3 months, and that's stupid. Because with data, you can actually say, what's the right dose? Is it 5, 10, 20 of tadalafil, or do I even need it? Because a lot of men who think they need these things don't really need them. They have a problem. They have a confidence issue, and the ring is better at addressing the confidence issue than a pill.
Oh, interesting. And one question that I had, because you mentioned blood pressure, you mentioned alcohol intake, you mentioned levels of confidence and stress. Would you say there's other things as well that perhaps men could try to manage to also avoid having, like, like this lack of fitness for them
Sure.
to enjoy this?
Well,
Yeah.
look, it's embarrassing to a guy if after a few strokes you get winded, you got to lie on your back, right? So yes, yeah, I think it's important to be in good cardiovascular health, and smoking has a negative impact upon cardiovascular health. Smoking also, especially heavy smoking, decreases blood flow into the penis. Um, the and that effect gets worse as people get older. So good cardiovascular health is important. There's certainly a concern about microplastics in processed foods, lowering our testosterone levels, and certainly who um, any man who's having erections that are less than 7.5 or 8 in firmness is having less than 3 nocturnal erections per night should get the testosterone level checked, even if they're as young as you. And it's kind of shocking that checking testosterone is still not part of the routine physical exam in developed countries. You think at age 40, just the way they check your electrocardiogram, liver function tests, thyroid, et cetera, et cetera. You think they'd be interested in testosterone level, and they're not. Patients have to actually ask for it. That's unfortunate.
Well, is it complicated to get a testosterone check? What processes do you need to go through for people just listening here?
So either a saliva test or a blood test. In the United States, you can order them online. If you want to be covered by insurance, then you have to have your doctor, order the test. But it's easy. They're easy to get.
Is that simple?
It's that simple, and it should become. And if you are going to take testosterone, you should make it objective. Right now, um, a doctor, assuming they even ask the questions, they often just don't ask the questions. They just give the pills because it's easier, it takes less time. But the questions they're supposed to ask are, how's your energy? How's your sleep? How's your libido? How's your desire? Well, those are all subjective questions. And Rodney, you look like a young, virile guy. Um, but I bet if I told you right now, hey, Rodney, I'm enjoying this interview so much, I'm going to wire you $50,000. I'll bet you're going to sleep really well tonight. Your energy is going to be great for the next few days. And your libido, going to be fantastic. I'm a little bit more expensive. I'm older than you. You got to send me $100,000. But if you send me $100,000, I'm I don't need testosterone anymore. I'm feeling everything's great. So my point is people need to make, and they can do this with tech. People need to make testosterone objective. There's three things. One, get your number because that's objective, and then you compare yourself to where you are in with other men your age. I just had a guy this morning. He's in his early 40s. He's really fit, but his testosterone came back 200. Now that was interesting because the point being, you can look on the outside and still have problems. So my recommendation to people, if they're taking to take testosterone, is make it objective. Men, that is. Uh, the take Put a tape measure around your biceps, your pecs, because ideally with testosterone you should gain muscle, and then also get a tech ring and assess your nocturnal erections. Are you having 3+ per night? Are they at least a 6 to 6.5 on average in firmness? Are you getting, well, it'd be different in my age and your age, but you should be getting a certain duration of nocturnal erections as well too. Your age is probably about an hour, probably over 2 hours. My age is about a little bit over an hour. So make it objective. Don't just chase a number, because what the doctors usually do in the United States or the UK. It's like, hey, Elliot, you're 70 years old, 70 years old. We'll keep you at 600. Well, maybe I need 1,200, or maybe only 400, but you don't know unless you're getting data.
Makes sense. Now that's really interesting you say that, because I think a lot of people, a lot of men, for example, we never really think of that even in our sleep. Yes, sometimes like you will get hard and stuff through the night, but you don't really think about the statistics behind it in terms of the pressure you like range you need to be, the amount of times you need to be doing that at night, and yeah, so it's quite interesting. It's quite
Well,
interesting.
look,
But what do you
a man,
think? Yeah. Mm.
I mean, a man can have one nocturnal erection per night and still perform sexually and think, hey, I'm just as hard. I'm just hard now at age 60 as I was at age 40. But you're not. You're actually, the client, that man who's age 60 should still be having 3 nocturnal erections per night. And if there's so without the data, you just don't know. You don't know where you are. Just the way without blood pressure data, you don't know about. We need to take urology and sexology to the 21st century of objective, actionable, personal care.
True. And like, what do you think the biggest hurdle is when it comes to like developing the ring, distributing it, making it more of like a daily common thing for men to use? Like, what do you think the biggest hurdles have been? Because obviously I think you've been cleared obviously on the regulatory end. That's been fine. Are there still some sort of like taboos? Is it still something of like a secret that most men tend to keep? Like, what have you
Well, I
found?
think I think there's several obstacles. One is ignorance. People just don't. Not even doctors. They just don't know about the importance of and the value of measuring nocturnal erections, and that's a problem. The other is that straight men are really stupid about these things. Gay men are very into rings. 90% United States
Yes.
and the UK, 90% of men who are sexually active use rings. Gay men, and only 10% straight men do. Well, they know something that we don't know, and they're less inhibited. Straight men tend to turn it into a pride issue. I don't need that. Whereas it's not about needs, but want. I mean, do you want to rock harder, last longer, have more intense orgasm, be more confident, and be more likely to satisfy a partner? Because it's not about needs, but want. You want those things, don't you? And any guy doesn't want those things. You have probably like a red X in the forehead. So women and men stay away from them as sexual partners. They should be like a warning. Uh, about that. And so there's ignorance. Ignorance is one issue. Doctors are ignorant as well too. There's also um, standard care and insurance issues. So right now, both technology and erection rates are not part of the standard of care. And doctors tend to be they're politically liberal, but they're also they're conservative in their practice. They just do what they're told to do. Or what they've been taught. So doctors have virtually no education in sexual health, almost zero. I got a month of it in medical school. It hasn't gotten any better. Mine was mostly more focused on psychology rather than the physiology of sex. Two, it's a challenge. In order to get insurance to cover it, you first have to do research, which we have. We have now 6 or 7 published papers. Then you have to apply to the regulatory agencies that are in every country, of course. They don't work particularly fast. Are you in South Africa right now? South Africa's
So right now, yeah, so I was in South Africa a few weeks ago. Right now I'm
okay.
actually in Harare, Zimbabwe. It's not too far, just an hour away from Joburg.
God knows what the Department of Health is like in Zimbabwe. In South Africa, though, it's relative.
Yeah, there's a lot of
It's
I think there's a lot of politics. There's a lot of
yeah. Well, there's money, there's corruption involved too. But South Africa um, is 9 years behind. This was 9 years behind a couple of years ago in reviewing applications new pharma, new medical devices. Um, and I'll share with you because my son was working as a consultant with the Department of Health in South Africa. They were paying, frankly, this doesn't relate to what we're talking about, but it's an interesting anecdote. They were paying, the government of South Africa was paying really stupid money. It's a ridiculous amount of money for something they should be able to do on their own. It's not that they're it's not that people in South Africa are uneducated. There are people who go off to, well, they got a good college system there as well, a very good college system, and then their leading people go off to the UK or United States and get advanced degrees. So there's all this talent there, um, but they don't want to work. so, so these jobs, the Department of Health, people make $100,000 a year, a lot of money in South Africa. You have this backlog of 9 years of applications, and it's all on paper. They haven't computerized it. They bought the computers. This is according to my son. They bought the computers, and then they kind of disappeared. I assume they got sold to the black market. And then eventually, the consulting company, which I'm not going to mention the name because it's supposed to be confidential. The consulting company, the American International, uh, they recommended to the Department of Health was, why don't you just copy the FDA, the American FDA? And it took about 9 months to consider that reasonable proposal, and they said, no, no, we're not going to do it because well, you've been there. There's corruption. The people, and anyway, it can be pretty. It's almost. I'm not saying it's that bad here in the United States, but it's not like the FDA comes to me and says, "Oh, gee, Elliot, Dr. Justin, you published these, or this research has been done utilizing your revolutionary technology, and we think we can help people enjoy longer lives of sexual health and better cardiovascular health if we help you, you know, uh, overcome obstacles about marketing and ignorance about this." No, I've got to pay money to lawyers. Um, I don't think the process will take as long as it will in South Africa, but I think by the second or third quarter of next year, our application will finally be reviewed. And and I got to pay lawyers. It's not as
Well,
if I could, I can
yeah.
send emails back and forth to the FDA, in Washington. No, no, no. I have to have lawyers to negotiate it. So that's the problem. So
Well,
we have ignorance, we have regulatory issues, and then you have to be adopted by the insurance system so that the doctors can write a prescription for it. Because that's the mindset of doctors. Doctors don't want to sit down. Don't want to take the time to sit down with people and explain to them, hey, Elliot, you need to get your data. There's this device. You can go online and purchase it. I'm happy to go over the data with you. No, they don't want to go data at all. They just want to write prescriptions. So when we finally reach that point where doctors can write prescriptions, which will be sometime next year, I
nice,
believe
nice,
this will take off. Meanwhile,
great.
um, I go to meetings around the world, and I come on podcasts like this in order to try to tell people about it.
Nice, nice, nice. I'm really happy to hear that. And like one of the things that I'll also be putting like on the screen for people listening on audio is that they'll be putting like the discount code as well for people who are interested to get it and just to order it. You can order it from anywhere, the rings and stuff. And it's a good 15% discount, which would be great. But then the question is now, I think, like because we're coming towards the end of this episode, but one thing I always tend to ask on this podcast is, like, what are your thoughts in terms of like the current and like future states of like medtech industry when it comes to treating like sexual health issues in men? Because I think for what you said right now, for some people, most men would have never even thought of this. So for them, it sounds like it's futuristic technology. But I like no, this is actually what you guys are making right now at FirmTech. And so the question is, what's the current state, and where do you think the industry is going, and or where the tech is going? And like,
Well,
feel free
the
to go as
sure.
wild as you want.
Well, I wanted to first define how I would like to define sex. The sex tech kind of breaks into two areas. There's sex tech for the sex toy industry, and then there's sex tech for health. Though we do enhance pleasure, I'm really on the health and data side. There's only one other company in the world doing something like what we're doing, and their device can't be used during sex itself. It can only be worn overnight. And it's called the Atom Health. I think it's a good product. It doesn't have the broader functionality that ours does because ours can be used during sex for data and also to enhance performance. And this is a good device. But in terms of market penetration, it's really minimal because of ignorance. Uh, other sex tech for men's health, Well, for men who have significant poor pelvic floor tone, especially men who are obese or men who've had bladder or prostate problems, um, there are ways of objectively measuring your your the impact of pelvic floor exercises. It's that's the device. It's a probe that goes in your butt and it measures the strength of your pubic, these muscle contractions. That our market's enormous. That our market is every man over the age of 40, 45. Their market is smaller. Um, there are some sex things for premature ejaculation, but don't. Again, their market's small. There's a company named Mirari that's doing sort of interesting product that it goes behind the balls and it sends an imperceptible amount of electricity against the nerves that are there in order to delay ejaculation. It's kind of interesting, although it's kind of an awkward place to have to put a patch, but it works. And that uh, and I wish them well. I think it's cool. I think it's cool. I think it's a cool idea. There's not much. I guess my point is that there's not much on the health side. There's some frightening things on the sex toy side, because I do think that I think that my grandchildren are likely to end up having some of them have their primary relationships be with robots, and that's a whole other area. It, I think from my perspective, it's dystopian, um, but it's already happening. In Japan. It's estimated there are 1.5 to 1.8 million men whose primary relationship is with an avatar, and there are small millions in Europe, and once they figure out the haptics, the feelies. I don't think a lot of guys are ready to jump onto to latex dolls that talk, but once you can deceive the brain to saying, "Hey, this feels like real life," and that's close, then what's going to be the impact on men and women? Because it's not just about, that's having engagement. It's not just about sex. It's about the robot or the avatar knowing more about you than even you know yourself at times. They know your taste and interest in politics. They know what you like to read. They know what music you like to listen to. They know what foods you like, let alone whatever your sexual tendencies are. And that's going to be very, very attractive to many, many people. And then, of course, ultimately, if you want to be really dystopian, the robots don't need us.
True, true. No, but no,
But
thank you very much. Yeah,
But to get
makes
back to
sense.
health, we're the only
Yes.
ones. We are the only ones, from my perspective, doing something really broad, a broad other than Adam Health, doing something really broad in genuine sex tech for health. It's important for men over the age of 45, 50 to get their data, and it's important for men to recognize that just the way vibrators have changed things for women, erection rings change things for men.
No, thank you very much. That makes a lot of sense. And just to reassure people that this is like you distribute worldwide, they can
We should
order from
worldwide.
anywhere.
We have not shipped to West Africa. And we have shipped a few units to South Africa. Most of our business is 85% is the United States, 8% is Australia, and the rest is mostly EU, UK. Um, Although we have doctors in Egypt, Kuwait, who are utilizing our technology. Um, if it's not being used somewhere, it's usually because the government has obstacles. We have doctors in Brazil, India, who really want to use the device, but the tariffs are so high that we can't get them in.
True, true. I understand. And no, thank you very much, Doc. I think that
Sure.
was one of the most exciting episodes I've done on the podcast. Thank you very much for coming.
Thank you.